Hello and welcome to my weapon overview series, where I'll be going over various weapons in Splatoon 2, specifically the ones I know best and tend to play. And for the first episode, I'll be sticking with my main weapon, the Splattershot. I freaking love this thing. When I was playing Splatoon 1, I predicted that the Carbon Roller was gonna suck in this version. Called it. So I started shifting over to the Splattershot. And it's mostly the same here. The main thing is just instead of a more reliable long-range option with your special, you get the splashdown, which can be really useful for a lot of situations, especially, we'll get into that later, but first let's start with range, RNG factor, of course that wasn't RNG, that was me screwing around, and kill time. Kill time, pretty good. I believe it's 18 frames exactly, but shoot, messed that one up. Oh shit, can I kill that one? Okay. It's overall just gonna be solid, like, as long as you don't miss your shots, as long as you're not, like, hopping around, it should be pretty easy to just kill your opponent. Though, on the RNG factor, as you see, I'm, like, hopping around, and, like, the shots spread out a lot. Now that was at just about maximum range, as opposed to just standing and shooting, where you just get a continuous stream. When you jump, your accuracy goes to pretty much crap, even if I aim downwards a little bit, which helps, but not enough. It's just really not a good idea to be jumping and using this weapon unless you're, like, really up close, like this. And even then, like, your shots can just straight up miss. So I really advise just, like, swimming, shooting, swimming, shooting, swimming, shooting. Like, just jumping to try and avoid enemy fire, unless you're, like, at max range trying to get away, not a good idea. In which case you should probably be using ink resistance if you planned on doing that. I wouldn't advise it, which I'll get into later, and range, which kind of leads into fall-off damage as well. You'd be surprised what you can manage with Splattershot's range. It's not super impressive, but you'd be surprised what you can do with it. Like, it can deal with pretty much most situations, and that's why it's one of the best weapons in the meta right now. It's just incredibly solid. Now, the thing is, let's get into the weapons it struggles against first. And again, this is going to vary from situation to situation. If you get a flank, you can pretty much kill anyone. But essentially, you're going to want to be careful of primarily just weapons that outrange it. Like, if you outrange something, it's pretty much a sucker. The Octobrush, unless it gets flank on you, you can just take that out. Junior, gone. Try Slosher now, post-patch, it's going to just die. Yeah, pre-patch it was pretty much the same range. But post-patch, it's really, not what it's gonna be. I'd say the number one weapon I struggle with at the same time, it's like, I'd argue it's one that actually has an easier matchup. The Rapid Blaster, like, I mean, you can actually hit from fairly far away and just keep them back. One or two shot, depending on how many you hit. Let me find it. Okay. And of course the hero shot is just Splattershot, but anyways, so what you're going to want to do against Rapids is either just get out of there or rush them, because up close they can't really do anything. You don't actually have to get that close, so essentially if he's like over there and you're like right here, it might be best to kind of go like that and just kill. But on the other hand, if you're a little further back and they're moving in on you, it's probably a better idea to just run. You gotta have some prediction of where they're gonna shoot, because the Rapid Blaster, you don't want that ink messing up where you're trying to go and not being able to get the kill because of it, as that can not only leave one of their team members up, but then you're gone, so that can be really bad for your team. So you wanna really try and avoid that. Okay, let's get into subs and specials, though. Now, this is actually the Burst Bomb and Splashdown combo is a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for, because, as you saw, I just splashed down and launched a Burst Bomb and that finished him off. So essentially, if you know an enemy is going to be trying to get away, then essentially keep an eye on them, and wherever they are standing when you splash down, just toss a Burst Bomb and they'll be gone. Best part about it is that there'll be like a couple frames where they're kind of stuck in your ink, so you'll have an idea of where they can be. It has a lot more practical application than you might think. And because you start with a full ink tank whenever you use your special, you'll be fine. But just talking about burst bombs in general, like, these things are freaking annoying to deal with if you know how to use them. I used to be better with them, but I started playing a more main-focused Splattershot, I guess? I don't know. So they're just really good for pressuring or keeping enemies back, or even just straight up killing guys that are too stubborn to move, like if you have a sniper up there. Hang on. Wow. My accuracy is terrible. You can just... but you get the idea. Yeah, I'm gonna need to practice more with those. You can just straight up kill them, and they actually, you can reach further with burst bombs, especially with sub power up. Though this is with no sub power up. And it just complements the kit very well. Splashdowns are especially useful for super jumps, if you want to use them. As I'm sure many of you know. Don't underestimate that. Like, I noticed a lot of people post-patch don't splash down super jump anymore. Don't be afraid to, just know when there's a good opportunity to. Like, of course, if you punish an enemy blunder where they're not aware of your splashdown, and they're ready to punish your jump, that can completely destroy them. But at the same time, you have to be wary, like, how many of the enemy team is up? Do they have their entire team up? Like, are they just going to surround me and kill me when I'm done with my splashdown? Like, there are 2 down. But if this was a real player, he could have hypothetically killed me because I missed him, and I would have still gotten these 2 guys. That wouldn't have been good. So you gotta do it situation by situation. Okay, now let's get into gear. What I typically like to run on this is just a lot of swim speed. I'm trying to get some... I'm trying to replace this with some subsaver. I mean some ink recovery. But I don't quite have the chunks. And just some subsaver. Now, with 3 mains of subsaver, you can throw 3 burst bombs, which is really useful, as you just have to hit in the general area to get a kill, like, boom. Thing is, that's not going to leave you with, like, any ink remaining. Like, look at that, that's not much. Technically, you only need 2 mains and 1 sub, but it's good to have the extra, you know, unless you're going for, like, a super specific loadout where you're going to have, okay, exactly enough to throw 3 burst bombs and then some ink recovery to compensate for it. I wouldn't advise that, because then you have, like, literally no ink when you want to throw a burst bomb. I mean, want to just get out of a bad situation. Although, I suppose it can be useful if you want to use your splashdown just for the... I don't know, just for the full ink tank, but it's not like it's ink armor. So I wouldn't recommend that. But just the general speed allows you to be a lot faster in approaching enemies, and can be really helpful for just approaching things with longer ranges. Like, against a pro could hit from here, to demonstrate. So just being able to swim up and kill is really helpful. That's why I like having it, and just being able to throw more burst bombs to keep the enemy back and at bay is really useful. However, while this is what I usually go with, that's not necessarily the most popular loadout. What I see a lot of people do, though not quite as much as what I showed, is actually just run Ninja Squid and then seriously stack swim speed on it. I still need to get these all the way up. So they can just move around unseen and swiftly. I don't like doing this because of how much Ninja Squid harms your movement speed. Just can't get anywhere fast enough. In addition, go through like a little bit of enemy ink, and that gives your enemy an idea of where you are, so you actually have to be careful when using Ninja Squid. However, it's still a really good option. You're probably not going to want to stack Sub-Saver if you're doing this option, for the simple reason of, you know, Burst Bombs will kind of, the only situations where they're really useful, they'll kind of blow your cover. Stealth is very important. Like, the enemy would have had no idea I was heading there, like, if I'm just kind of swimming around, they just kind of have to predict my movements, which they can do, and you know, that's what I do against Ninja Squid players, but it's more difficult, and you can get the jump on people. Think of it a little like active camo in Halo. Like, it's not going to fool everyone, but it's certainly going to make it more difficult to take you out and just track you, generally speaking. But ultimately, that's not even necessarily the most popular loadout either. What I've actually seen the most of, though correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not super familiar with what top players do, is they just go freaking nuts with ink recovery and sub power up, and like maybe one ink saver sub. So just to really just to really hammer in the points. Now for just general practical. So blah, I cannot speak. Let's bring this into the testing room, show it off, then I'm gonna go ahead and do a couple matches with it, and commentate over my gameplay, giving notes. So essentially, 1, 2, 3, and then you have a lot better ink recovery. This, while it's not my favorite way to use a Splattershot, it's very good. Like, honestly, you can still probably squeeze in a swim speed on it to keep your speed up. And the ink recovery is really useful when you're just, like, traveling. And with a Splattershot, you're constantly going to be spraying, moving, and approaching. It'll just save you a lot of times where you'll just straight up have to take a sec recharge, or even just retreat, just so you can get some extra ink as you're traveling. It's really going to help you out. So that's probably what you're going to be best with, but again, your mileage may vary. So that's the main points I wanted to go over when discussing this weapon. Now, what maps and modes would it be ideal for? I am not ready to comment on that. That's like an entirely separate video. Oh, nope, that's walk speed. And some people do like walk speed on it, but I'm not a fan. It's useful for just things you're outrange, but not super useful in dealing with its flaws. Though a lot of people are very good with it. Now we're starting tower control. Just gonna be talking over my gameplay. And if you have any additional comments, or even if you disagree with me on something, please do leave a comment. I'm always looking to improve, and if you have some advice that... crap, 2 snipers. It's always useful to take, of course, other people's opinions into account. Now, the Splattershot can actually make a very good flanking weapon. That sniper. Okay, got 2 of them. So you want to be pretty aggressive with it. They could have actually killed me like several times over there if I messed up. I managed to get away with it. I was too aggressive there, I shouldn't have done that. And what rules does it play as well, I guess is probably another thing I should get into over here. And overall, it can kind of do anything. Jack of all trades, master of not really one, but a couple of things. Pretty good for ink recovery. Or ink coverage, not recovery. Okay, that was stupid of me. Hard to commentate and play at the same time. You can play objective fairly well, although you gotta worry about being outranged. Alright, sorry, but a little focused. Screwing this up. Ah, shoot. Ah, okay, yeah, that was smart. So, and also with just, if you're planning on playing a support though, I highly recommend, going for a, what are they? I highly recommend stacking, because I suck at finding these things. I highly recommend going for Sub-Saver and possibly even Ink Recovery, as that's really going to help you just be super obnoxious with burst bombs. And again, getting those flanks is always good. See if we can corner him. Okay. That was close. That probably wasn't worth pursuing. So you don't want to get too distracted, just as a general rule of thumb, this is regardless of weapon, from what you're doing when you chase after someone. That kill is very tempting, especially when they're vulnerable, but you gotta pick your battles. Should you just be weary of them and be prepared for a flank at any time? You know, try and lure them back? Or do you just... or is it really worth getting that kill? Gosh, I am sucking. Ah. Rapid Blaster Pro is a lot easier to get up close against. As ultimately that range is absolute crap. The Brella, it's frustrating to fight against for me. Maybe I just suck at the matchup, but the Brella kind of pops up, walks in your face, and just kind of shoots you. In that circumstance, he was swimming towards me. That time my aim just sucked. Crap, I'm freaking cornered. Yeah. I was not in a good position. I'm gonna lose. Probably gonna do these sections post-com next time, so I can actually focus. Yeah, I was cornered. There's no getting out of that. That's frustrating. You have no ink coverage. Oh, we do have 2 snipers, so what are you gonna do? Okay, yeah, I was the only one up. So, that's a Splattershot. It's certainly one of the best weapons in the game. I'd rank it at least top 10. I tend to prefer it over the Tentatek, though the Tentatek is its own video. Top kills, yay, okay. Ah, dang it, okay. But just, you have to be aware of its weaknesses. You can't just go in there guns blazing, you have to always try and get the flank. You can only really go in guns blazing against things that are outranged by it, but that's not a lot. I mean, even the Splat Roller, I believe even the Carbon actually, can just phase you out with vertical swings. So thank you very much for watching. Please do leave a comment letting me know if you disagree or what you think I left out, or even just like things that you liked about the video or advice going on forward. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.